Cowboy days, isn't it? All right, it's good to see everybody here tonight. Blessings on you. Hope you had a warm and comfortable day. We're out of about the 32nd chapter of Genesis tonight, is where we're going to be looking for our study. Let me start by saying that really changing, being changed, is a rare thing. We don't change much, through our lives. We want to, we think we get good ideas, we want to change, but seldom do people ever really make life-changing decisions. It's rare. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying that change is really a rare thing. It's just difficult. So tonight, I want to talk to you about if some of you are struggling with, you're wanting to change some things about your life. You want to quit smoking, or you want to go on a diet, or you want to fix some bad attitudes, or maybe you've got some addictive behaviors and you'd like to change. You'd like to be different. But the chances of it are very difficult because change is just hard to do. Habit is strong. Now, I'm not saying that you can't ever change, because I believe you can. There have been times in my life I've made changes and radical changes that I've kept with for a lifetime. But the opportunities come about usually because we reach a point in our life where I'm just not going to call them a turning point, where we come to that point where we see that the direction we're going is not working and we want to change. But there's something about certain times in our life that we reach a turning point and we can make some changes. Now, you see, Jesus talked to us and told us about changes. And he said that when a person truly wants to get a change in life, and they give their life to the Lord, and by faith they believe in Him, then they really are changed. And he said that's like being born again. It's like getting a new start, a brand new beginning. There have been times when we all love to have been able to go back and just absolutely start over and have one of those turning points where everything was different in the future than it was in the past. And so tonight I want to tell you that you have an opportunity to change. I don't want you to think it's something that you can just do on a whim or on the spur of the moment. A real change is difficult, and if you begin to pray about it and ask the Lord to help you, He will create in your life one of these turning points where something like that can really happen in your life. Now tonight we're going to have a front row seat as we watch a young man come to a turning point. And we're going to watch his life. We're going to see how he reaches this turning point and what he does to get through this point. So Jacob is who we're following tonight. Jacob is, of course, we've been studying about that family. And last Thursday night I reminded you that Jacob will soon have his name changed, and he's going to become Israel, and the father of the tribes of Israel. Now, so tonight we're going to follow him through one of those turning points and walk with him through a change in his life. Again, I want to just repeat myself and say, every one of us have some things about our life we need to change. We need to be different. We need to be better, more spiritual, more prayerful, more kind, more generous, more loving. All those good Christian attributes. That we all need that. But we need to come to a point where you can make this sort of change. So I guess I just simply want to say, don't give up. You can be changed. You can do that. But a turning point is a crucial part of this plan tonight. So what makes a turning point? How do I watch for one of those turning points in my life where I can reach a place and say, this is a good opportunity. A new chapter, a new start. I can start. What is that turning point? What does that look like? Now, if we look into the life of Jacob tonight, we're going to follow him, and he's going to talk with us about those turning points. And the first turning point we find in chapter 32 is that Jacob has a new vision, a new understanding, a new insight. He sees some things in the spirit world, and it is so radically different that it is a turning point for him. So let's read chapter 32 and a couple of verses here and just see if we can get a handle on some of those things. So Jacob also went on his way, and the angels of God met him. Well, hello, that would be a pretty good turning point, wouldn't it? How'd you like to be out on a road trip walking with your cattle and your family, and you're by yourself, and an angel walks up and talks to you? I'm telling you what, friends, that'll get your attention, wouldn't it? So that's what he did. Let's keep reading verse 2. Now when Jacob saw them, so there's more than one, he said, "This is the camp of God." So he named that place Mahanaim, which means the camp of God in Old Hebrew. So here he was, and this angel came up to him, and his eyes were open to the idea that God was all around him. And friends, that is a turning point. When you are going through your life, going through the normal day-by-day activities of your life, and all of a sudden you realize, wow, this is a special place. This is holy ground. This is the camp of God. I mean, something like that is truly a turning point when you can take a moment and say, you know, this is a point, I can make a mark on my calendar of life and say, right here, something changed. When you first discovered that you could come to a cattle sale barn and could come in and sit down with a bunch of other country-loving people, cowboys, farmers, and you could sit down in a marketplace environment and truly encounter God. That was a turning point for many of us. I honestly never dreamed that the crown of my ministry would be in a cow barn. You know, I didn't see that coming. I really didn't. I thought I'd see a lot of things, but never that. And then when God brought it to me, and now I see how it's unfolded, I'm just so thrilled with it and so excited that this is what God had for me at this point in my life. And it was a turning point for me. And I suspect it's been a turning point for some of you, or if not many of you. As you come here in this new place, you get to see God in a new way, have a new vision, new insight. It's just been great. So God is real. He wants to play a part in your life. And we forget that from time to time. We get busy just doing our life and, you know, just taking care of business, and we forget that God really wants to meet us. And so when we realize He does, that can be a turning point. So tonight, I hope you are experiencing a turning point in your life when you say, God is really interested in me. Now, the next thing I picked up about Jacob was that this is a time when he had just completed a chapter of his life. And sometimes when we complete chapters in our life, that's a good turning point. So when we realize God wants to be in our life, a turning point. When we finish, you know, when we retire, get out, graduate from college, finish one job, or get, I don't know, we've got all these chapters in our life that change, and when that happens, we renegotiate our future. We say, okay, I've done this to get to this point, and I've been here, and I've been here, and now I got this brand new place in my life, and I can rethink about, and that's a turning point. And tonight, many of you are maybe at turning points. Let's talk about this. Verse 3, Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom. He instructed them, this is what you are to say to my lord Esau. Your servant Jacob says, I have been staying with Laban and have remained there till now. Verse 5, I have cattle, donkeys, sheep and goats, male and female servants. And now I am sending this message to my lord that I may find favor in your eyes. Now, here we find Jacob, and he's been away from his brother Esau. Now, when they parted, things were not good in their life. They walked away from each other, estranged, mad, angry. If they had a chance, probably one of them would have killed the other. And they went in separate directions. And now time has passed. 14 years at least has passed. And now they're going to meet up again. And I'm sure the anticipation is pounding at least in Jacob's heart. What will he do? Will he kill me? Will he be mad at me? Where is he? What chapter of his life is he in tonight? And if you can identify with that, I hope that you can see the possibility of a turning point for you. See, Jacob was a different man now. A different place. He wasn't that a conniving young man that he was earlier. Now he's grown up. He's got 2 wives and 2 mistresses, I guess you can put it. He's got 2 other ladies that are bearing children with him. He's got 4 wives, in other words, and now he's got all these kids, and he's just in a different place. He's rich now. So Jacob realized that very soon he's going to have to deal with his brother's anger, and that's kind of exciting. My wife and I are at a brand new chapter in our life. I haven't told you this. We're so excited. We are going to become great grandparents. And wow, I'm so thrilled about that. I'll be honest with you, I've never slept with a great grandmother before. And this may be quite a challenge. I just know that's going to be a new deal for me. We're going to be great grandparents, the Lord willing, in some months ahead. So we're kind of at a new place too. And I think if you all will take a moment and think about it, you all are at a new place too, most of the time. Now, when new realities impose themselves on you, you've got a chance to rethink your plans. And this is a good time, a good turning point to make some real changes in your life. And I'm going to have to start thinking of myself now as a great grandpa, as a new place to be. Then there are other changing points, turning points, when things begin to threaten your safety or your health. And you've been going along a long time and getting by pretty good in a certain job, certain place, certain career, certain thing. And all of a sudden something threatens to change that. Shakes the boat. And you are now going to have to deal with a new way of life. And it may not be as comfortable as it was in the past. So whenever you reach one of those points, a turning point, it's a good time to make changes. Also, now let's keep reading, verse 6. When the messengers returned to Jacob, they said, "We went to your brother Esau, and now he's coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him." Oh my goodness. 400 men are coming with him. What would he want 400 men for? He's going to come and whip us. He's going to kill us. We're going to have a war. So he got great. So verse 7 says, "In great fear and distress, Jacob divided the people who were with him into 2 groups, and the flocks and herds and camels as well." He thought, if Esau comes and attacks one group, the group that is left may escape. So he was thinking, how do I preserve my family? How do I preserve my wealth? So he divided it into 2 groups. So if they attack one, then the other group might get away. So he's got a strategy, a defense strategy there going on. So, wow, is he going to come and be mad? Who knows what's going to happen when we meet him? So Jacob goes into this strategy of protection. How many of you remember the stock market crash a few years back? Did that kind of shake your world and rattle your cage just a little bit? Or, my wife and I had 15 cents invested in that market too. We like to no, just joking. But those sort of things really do kind of shake us. Whenever we get threatened or worried about our safety, and maybe we've got some bad news from the doctor, or we have a health concern, and we begin to think, oh my, I'm at a new place. This thing is threatening my life, my future, my happiness. And when we reach one of those points, we want to we can renegotiate. We rethink about our future and what we're going to do. So if you find yourself at one of those turning points because of fear, use it and let it push you to make some life-altering changes, because however we come upon these is better. Now the next one I'm going to talk about when we pick up reading in verse 9 is, I think, one of the truly greatest points in our entire life to make changes. And I'm going to call this when we develop an attitude of gratitude. When we all of a sudden we just realize how good God has been. And it is such a, we've maybe been through some stress, maybe you've been through some threatening times or some difficult times, and then maybe it kind of calms down a little bit, and you look around and you think, God, you've been so good to me. You've blessed me so much. And when one of those times come, I think that's an awfully good time to rethink our life, to make new commitments. Let's keep reading, verse 9. Then Jacob prayed, O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Lord, you who said to me, go back to your country and to your relatives, and I will make you prosper. I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you've shown your servant. I had only my staff when I crossed this Jordan, but now I have become 2 camps. Verse 11. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid he will come back and attack me, and also the mothers with their children. But you have said, I will surely make you prosper, and will make your descendants like the sands of the sea, which cannot be counted. So Jacob, in this time of real stress, had a moment of clarity. He had a moment of gratitude when he realized just how good God had been to him. Now, I'm going to tell you right now how to just absolutely ruin a depressing day. I'm going to tell you how to really solve a sad, self-whining day. You just take a moment and look around and see how good God's been to you. Often I have wanted to, through the years when I was more involved in counseling and family counseling, people would come to me and you know, they had everything going. They were happy. I mean, they had wealth and health and all that good stuff, but they were just sad and depressed and whining and, you know, just everything. I always wanted to say, come, let's go get in the car and let's just take a ride. And we go to a nursing home or go to a hospital, walk up down the halls. It wouldn't take long for you to realize just how good things are in your life. And when if you get this attitude of gratitude, I'll tell you what, it'll change everything about you. It'll change your prayer life. It'll change your relationships with the people around you. It will change your relationship with God. Now, if you remember a week or so ago, I asked you, I can't ask you, but I challenged you to not be so talkative when you're praying with God, but to spend a little bit more time listening. And if any of you did that, you noticed that the more you listened, the more you realized how grateful you should be for how good He's been to you. Jacob remembered that, and he'd been kept safe to this point. And Jacob realized how blessed he'd been. And so when you stop and realize how good you've had it, you're at a turning point. You can make some decisions. Let's keep reading. Now we're going to move to the next place here, where Jacob is going to begin to put back together the relationship that has been so broken between him and his brother. Let's read about this. Verse 13. He spent the night there, and from what he had with him, he selected a gift for his brother Esau. 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows and 10 bulls, and 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. He put them in the care of his servants, each herd by itself. And he said to his servants, go ahead of me and keep some space between the herds. He instructed the one in the lead, when my brother Esau meets you and asks, who do you belong to, and where are you going, and who owns all these animals in front of you, then you're to say, they belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau, and he is coming behind us. He also instructed the second, the third, and all the others who followed the herds, you're to say the same thing to Esau when you meet him. And be sure to say, your servant Jacob is coming behind us. For he thought, I will pacify him with these gifts I am sending on ahead. Later, when I see him, perhaps he will receive me. So Jacob's gift went on ahead of him, but he himself spent the night in the camp. Jacob and Esau's relationship needed to be fixed. You may have a relationship stress and crisis with somebody that needs to be fixed also. And there's nothing that's more disturbing or nothing that causes more stress to our spirit life than to be at an enmity and at odds with somebody. And we need to get some things fixed. So Jacob realized he needed to mend up a relationship. So he began to take advantage of an opportunity that he had. And here's what he did. See, he began to send gifts on ahead of him. And you know, gifts have a way of kind of softening up things a little bit, you know. I have to be real careful. I don't want to ever don't want to send too many flowers to my wife or anything like that, because she might think I've been doing something wrong. But you know, sometimes it doesn't hurt to be a little nice. A guy was, he and his wife were not getting along real good, and so he took her to a counselor, and the counselor listened to them a while, and pretty soon the counselor just got up from where he was sitting, and he walked over and where the man's wife was, and just give her a big old kiss. And the guy said, now that's what you need to do every day. Give her a big old kiss. And the man said, well, I guess I'll try to be back in here tomorrow so you can fix it. I don't think that's what he meant. When the opportunity presents itself, when you get a chance to fix a relationship, you need to take advantage of it, and because it's worth it. Now, the last thing I want to say tonight is I believe the very most important. The most important turning point in our entire life is when we have an encounter with God. Whenever we meet Him and see Him, that's truly a great time. Let's read verse 22. That night Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. And after he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. Now, what in the world is going on here? Well, we start out by the story. The narrative tells us that some man wrestled with Jacob all night long. Now, when we get through reading the rest of it down here in the rest of the story, it's no longer a man. We figured out who it is. It was the Lord. And all night long, Jacob wrestled with the Lord. He had an encounter with Him. And I think that was in this crisis, in this stress of changing, of this turning point in his life, that he knew how much he needed to change. Jacob knew he needed to stop being a con man. He needed to stop being selfish, and everything had to be about him. He knew he was going to become a prince with God. He knew that God was going to bless him and give him a new name. And that night of wrestling is when Jacob gave up all that junk in his life. It was that night when God and Jacob wrestled. Now, I think this may have physically wrestled, but I think more than anything else, we get a metaphor here of struggling with God. Have you ever had one of those times? You knew God wanted you to do something, and you sensed His presence, you sensed His direction in your life, and you didn't want to do it. You didn't want to go through with that. I remember my dad telling the story of his call to preach. And when Daddy first figured out that God had called him to preach, he didn't want to preach. He didn't want to be a preacher. And my daddy wrestled with that and struggled with that call for I don't know how long, a long time. And I remember when Dad finally gave in and surrendered to that call, he never preached his first 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 sermons. He cried them. He literally cried his first sermons. He just was so broken and that he wrestled with God. He'd had an encounter, and it changed him so much that it touched all of us as we watched that happen. So the question is, this question of what will we do with God? What will you do with God? What are you going to do with Him? Because He's in your life, and He's coming to you. He's got these opportunities. He's got these things He wants you to do. He's got these ways He wants you to live. These values, these things that you need to accomplish. And you may not want to do them. And that struggle that's going on in your life right now is truly the greatest turning point you've ever been in. And if you found yourself tonight at one of those points, friend, give in to God. Stop resisting Him. Because you'll be so thrilled when you find what God wants to do with you. So commit to letting Him be boss. Because you're going to be forever different when you do. Let's keep reading. Verse 31. We're almost done. The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon. And when the man saw that he could not overcome him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip. I got that out of order, didn't I? I apologize. Now we're in verse 25. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with man. In other words, I kind of messed that up. But as they wrestled all night long, about daylight, the man, and we find out that it's the Lord, touched Jacob on the hip, and I guess severed a tendon in his hip. And then for the rest of his life, he limped. Why did God do that to him? Because that limp was going to always remind Jacob of the night he wrestled with the Lord. That was going to be a testimony, a turning point, a place that God touched him and that his life was spared. So this is not a bad thing when God touches you and breaks you. And sometimes He will. I've known many people in my life that have been touched by the hand of the Lord and broken. In fact, I think that the people God uses the most, He breaks the most. And so if you're struggling tonight with the call of the Lord on your life, give in to Him and let Him do what He needs to do in your life. You may have to limp a little, but it'll be worth it, because you get to see the face of God. Now when you reach a turning point, let God lead you in the changes you need to make. Stop resisting and let Him lead you through these turning points. And then you can truly, truly be changed. There was an old preacher back in our country. Not in my day, I never knew him. And he was a distant relative of mine. His name was Uncle Sam Killingsworth. And I've heard the story about Uncle Sam. He was a prayer warrior. He would pray and pray and pray. And they said that when he'd start praying, the young people in the church would get all upset and leave, because they knew he was going to pray for 30 minutes or maybe an hour. He just wouldn't quit praying. But in the story of his life, and I've heard that there was a man who in the service decided to quit smoking. God had convicted him and said he quit smoking. And after church, he went out behind the church, took his cigarettes out of his pocket, threw them out in the woods as far as he could throw them. And he knew he was going to change. He was never going to smoke cigarettes again as long as he lived. Until about 4 or 5 hours later, when the nicotine cravings hit him. They said he was out there at night with a flashlight trying to find it. Real change is hard. Real change is rare. And when you come to a turning point, one of those points that we talked about tonight, when the opportunity to change is radically in your face and is authentically available to you, don't pass it by. Don't pass it by. And tonight, you may be at a turning point. God may be saying to you, come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for my burden is light. You know, God may be wanting tonight to save you and give you a new birth experience. If so, don't run from that. Embrace it. Lord, tonight,